Hey, welcome back to the Networking Spark. I'm so happy that you're here. Thanks for listening. This week, I interview Summer Kang, who is an old soul on young shoulders, and she has her own podcast called Inner Wealth. I find her really inspirational. I'd love to know what you think. Let's get started. Hi, so Summer, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the Networking Spark podcast. Really excited to have you here today. And so just to introduce Summer, she's reaching 101 countries with over 8,000 followers in the first month of your podcast launch. And you've been in the top 3%, or you are in the top 3% globally. So huge congratulations, Summer, on your podcast, which is called Inner Wealth. Would you please tell us a little bit about your journey into podcasting?
It was a combination of things. First of all, I believe that we all have a gift. And when we combine this gift with serving others, we have a really wonderful purpose. And I kind of figured out from a younger age, I guess, that it was my voice. It was something to do with, me talking and putting myself out there in that way. And then the podcast kind of came from that idea of, I think that's my gift. And I, got one life to just give it a go. And also, I had been on this whole self-development journey myself and found it really isolating. It was really lonely. I didn't have many people I could confide in and have those kind of conversations with. And so I thought, surely I can't be the only one on the planet who's having this experience. And so there must be other people who want to have these kind of conversations. And so when I thought about that and being able to put it out into the world and create a group of people, a network of people from all over the globe, and hopefully help them on their journey too, because it's a really unique journey. Self-development can be really hard. It can be really beautiful. But like I said, it can be really isolating because it's such a individual journey. That's the kind of birth of it and how it came through. And yeah, like I said, I actually had a podcast last year. We revamped it, changed the name, changed up the cover, and yeah, it's being received really well.
Wow, amazing. So you've gone through a little bit of a journey with it from initially starting a podcast a while ago and then changing. But for me personally, the reason I invited you onto this podcast is I listened to yours and I really warmed to your voice and everything that you were saying. And then when I looked at you closely, I was like, hold on a minute. Like, you sound like you've got years and years and years of experience behind you. And yet I now know that you're only 19. So could you talk us through a little bit of where all of this wisdom has come from? You've got this beautiful, warm voice with so much wisdom in what you speak in your podcast. So I'd be really, really interested to find out about your story and where all of this has come from.
I always had an interest in it, the spiritual side of life. I think from a really young age, I had big questions, and I came to realize no one can actually answer them for me. There's no auntie or uncle or cousin or grandma that can answer these big questions about what am I actually doing here. Definitely through my childhood, had a lot of experiences that made me have to grow up and have to almost face the reality of life. And through that, I realized actually the only way is to grow. And I had these burning questions and I wouldn't let them drop. I'm such a curious mind that I can't just be told something and accept it. I need to know why I'm doing something, or why, even in small things in life. So when it comes to the actual meaning of life, I was like, okay, that's a very big question. And so that seeking kind of started that pursuit of self-development, and that spiritual side. And they've been quite a journey that's grown together. So as the spiritual side's grown, the self-development side has grown. So that's kind of where it stemmed from. It was there from a really young age, just absolute questions of what am I doing here? Because it can't just be, I think I realized quite young, this is quite magical. This can't just be, we can't just be put here for pain and suffering. There's got to be something quite beautiful to it. And so that seeking just opened this whole journey of, I could never have imagined it, to be honest. I think I was about 10 or 11. I started listening to people like Tony Robbins and Sadhguru, and it was satisfying those bits where I was starting to piece it together. So it was just big questions initially that started it, and having to grow up quite young. Yeah.
So do you believe that we are really forged in the fire, that amazing wisdom and experience comes from going through the hard stuff?
Absolutely. I mean, I would love to sit here and say that it's from the easy parts of life that we grow, but I'm sure, you can understand that too, and anybody who's listening to it, if we reflect on any hardship in our life, actually that's where the most amount of growth has gone. I do believe all seasons in life are important. We need the joyful seasons, the seasons where we wake up and we feel really happy for no reason, but absolutely it's in the pain and the suffering. It's part of the contract to grow. That's the reason we're here. So I know for a fact that that's where the most amount of growth comes from. And in those hard moments, I definitely know that I'm being stretched and I'm being pulled and I'm being, made into a better version of myself. So 100% I do. But I know that to be true, not even that I believe it. I've seen it so many times. And when I look back at the parts of my life that were the hardest, it's actually where I've grown the most. And the podcast is kind of, a show for that actually, as much as I would like to say I just meditated my way here, it was through all the hardships that I've had to grow and understand the lessons and take the wisdom out of it. And I think also having hardships, like everybody does, it makes life less sad when we realize that there's growth in it, because otherwise it can feel like life is just eating us and it feels like life is just coming at us and we have no control. Whereas when we realize, once we take the lesson, often the pain kind of leaves because we've got something to grow from and to show for it. And I know that for me, definitely, like when I look back, it's really satisfying almost that I've taken something from it and it wasn't just pain for the sake of pain. There was something from it that helped me that I can now help other people with.
Agree. And sometimes it's nice to have that reminder that when you are going through something that's really tough, because often when you are in that place, you forget about the fact that you could be growing
Oh
throughout
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So it's nice to hear a reminder that actually, we do need these difficult experiences. There's many kids today that are just kind of growing up with like the easy life, the soft parenting style, and it doesn't necessarily make them grow into really strong, amazing human beings always. What was your experience of school?
Oh, I don't think you know this. I left school when I was 15, so I was homeschooled after that. Not very good. Growing like when I was younger, it was more just that I wasn't a school kid. I just didn't enjoy it. A lot of my childhood, I didn't enjoy being a kid, which I know ironically people, I was that kid. I want to be an adult like most kids are, but I really meant it. So I would always get, adults, oh, these are the best years of your life. And I used to think, this is the best? Like, what? Whereas now, I can say as an adult, now I'm 19, yes, there are problems. Yes, there are, big girl problems to have to deal with, but I enjoy it so much more because I have so much more control over my life. But yeah, school wasn't the greatest of experiences, especially when I hit like senior school, so 11, 12. It for me was really isolating because I had to conform to a version of me that wasn't someone I was to fit in. I struggled to connect with people because I had a lot going on in my home life and these other problems that normal kids weren't having to deal with, and they had normal problems for their age, but I was like couldn't I forgot my homework, or like I don't know, little things that I was like, actually in the grand scheme of things this is really small. So in terms of my like that side of things, it made it harder. But then definitely in terms of self-development, I was reading things like Rich Dad Poor Dad and those Think and Grow Rich, and having that mindset in an environment that's teaching you to go to school and you get a 9 to 5 and you go to uni, it just wasn't working. And
Mm.
yeah, so it was not great. And then I left when I was 15 to be homeschooled, which was a huge risk, especially coming from an Asian background where education is everything. You don't question it, you just do what everyone else does. And then I was like, yeah, I'm being homeschooled. And I had so many people tell me, you're ruining your life, you'll have no education. And I had to just take that big step and believe that I could make it work. And I did. I got all my GCSEs, did pretty well, did my A levels. And yeah, so that was my more unique experience.
Fantastic. So what's the next step? So you've done your GCSEs, your A levels. You've also taken a big leap, which is it sounds like it's totally against what perhaps your culture or those people around you want to do. Having seen this with other people, the done thing to do is you've got to go and train to be a doctor or your teacher, or, blah 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 blah. But
Yeah.
you've gone outside of the box, and not everyone fits in that box, right? And so,
Yeah.
and we're now living in a world where it's getting more and more that way. So I think what you've done is inspiring, and will perhaps inspire others to go that way. So any advice you can give for anyone considering doing that? And
I think definitely set yourself up for success. I worked hard in my study, so I have them to fall back on. And unfortunately, we live in a world where that is, to some degree, what people are going to hold you to. So you kind of have to play the game until you can make the game. So I did that so that, no one can say anything. um, I do believe that when you look at life and realize actually how magical it is, that we really aren't here for very long. We're a speck, really, in the grand scheme of things. No one's actually really going to remember what you do. So do things that fulfill you. If other people have expectations of you and their happiness is based on that, they've got it a bit wrong. It's never your job to fulfill someone else's expectations. That's on them if they've created those expectations. Definitely, it was a big thing, I think, for my family when I said I don't want to go to uni and I want to pursue a life of, podcasting and self-development and whatnot, and I want to make a life out of it. Again, I had some questionable faces and comments, but
how about the
it
people closest to you, like your mum?
my parents are really supportive. Again, they've worked really hard to put me into good school, so it was definitely a shock to them still, okay, our oldest is not going to uni, but I can't fault their support. And I think that just when you believe in yourself, that's the most important thing, and to know that actually whatever challenges may come on this road, I'm willing to face them because I want it more than I want to go to uni, and I know I didn't want that path. So yeah, my parents definitely, it took a minute still to kind of get their head around it, but they both come from business backgrounds, so they are understanding of that way of life, and know that, you don't necessarily need a degree to do well, or, it's a good thing to have under your belt if it's how your path is paved, but it's not necessarily for everybody. And I think from my kind of track record of leaving school and, they were I think it wasn't a complete shock, but it was definitely still a conversation that had to be had.
Yeah.
If you want to be a doctor or you want to be an engineer, please, go to uni. I don't want to get on a plane with someone who has no degree, not
Yeah.
knowing what they're doing. But it definitely doesn't mean that it's for everyone, especially things like business. You're going to get taught business by people who don't actually own a business, or,
Yeah.
those kind of ideas. And so if there's something you want to do, absolutely pursue it. But I think just remember, you're living your life for you. And at the end of the day, you're the only one who's responsible for your happiness and for your joy. So if it's not aligned with you, then
Yeah, I agree with you. It's down to the individual, and I think if
yeah,
you've got work hard ethic, which you certainly have, and you've got creativity in what you do, then perhaps university isn't the way.
yeah,
It can be fitting into a box. A lot of people describe university as a great experience for meeting friends. So, but that's a very expensive way to do it, right?
yeah.
Do you mind me asking what your A levels were in? Just
I
out
did
of curiosity.
psychology and biology. I liked the mind and all that kind of thing,
Yeah,
as you can imagine.
love it.
Yeah, especially biology. I think your teachers make a huge difference to how you get on with the subjects, because
Agree.
for me, I had an incredible biology teacher. I'm sure she'll watch this. If she does, she knows that I love her.
Oh,
And I like anything mind, body, those kind of things, Englishy things.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Um, so tell us a bit more, Summer, about how your podcast has been received. So you can talk about when you first started it, or perhaps when you've relaunched it. But how's it? What sort of feedback have you got from people? And I will share my experience for instance. So and I shared this with you in our initial chat. I reached a place where I just felt like I was feeling a bit stuck, and I needed some inspiration, and I needed to return to my roots, which is personal development, spiritual yoga, um, but working in the business world, often, that doesn't always happen. So I felt like I needed that. I turned to your podcast and I listened to every single episode, all in one very early morning, and it was just beautiful. And it was just beautiful reminders of personal development and insight. And I've sent this immediately to various friends because they're just beautiful words that you speak. So have you heard directly from any other followers that they have given you some feedback?
Oh
How's it
yeah, I
going?
get like little feedback from most episodes where somebody will say I really needed that or I really enjoyed that, especially when it's a bit more detailed how yours was. It really touches me a lot more because hearing the specific things that you took away and the line that that person then carries to the day is really great. When I initially launched it, I thought it would be people my age, so I just had the assumption that it would be, people on a similar journey to me, which in hindsight, I guess was a naive perspective. I created it because it's lonely at this age being on this path. So it actually ended up being people from like probably 30 to 60 who were listening to it the most then. That was a demographic similar to now, but it's kind of grown from about 25 up to 65, which is the predominant listening. And yeah, I think it's interesting because actually, generally in real life, I connect to people older than me than I do to
Yeah.
people my age. And it's just the
Yeah.
same now with the podcast. And yeah, the feedback's been really great. It's interesting because I was careful. I wanted to mix spirituality and self-development. I didn't want to shut off a whole group of people because I use certain words, or like I use God, but another person uses Allah. Like I wanted it to be that everybody can listen or everyone can take something away. So I've been wary and trying to like broaden those words because to me they don't mean too much because I know that really it's the same source I'm talking about. But to other people, it can like completely shut people off if I use the word God and then they really put off by it. A lot of the information does feel quite channeled sometimes. So I'm kind of just guided in that way. And I don't want to shut off that guidance because it's carried me thus far. And I think the grace will continue to carry me. So yeah, it's a merge of both things. And I think people are really enjoying that. They like that idea. And there's people who are quite businessy that listen to it, which I really love. And they really connect actually even to the spiritual side as well as the self-development side. So yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. So I said to you when I first met you, I feel like you're an old soul on young shoulders, and that speaks volumes as to why your listeners are in the slightly older demographic.
Yeah.
I would absolutely love for the younger generation to be listening to your podcast, but if you look at neurology and the way that brains develop, there is a reasoning as to why people tend to start looking at life in a deeper way and in a more spiritual way as they get older.
Yeah.
Before the age of, like your age and slightly above, it's all about the self usually and not going any further than that. But I don't want to, I don't want to put anyone down. It's just the way the brain works. But yeah, inner wealth, I think it's wonderful, and I think you're amazing too. Can
Thank
you
you.
tell us a little bit about the work that you do with your mum and your relationship with your mum?
Yeah, so I also do energy healing, and that kind of grew just naturally. It was a skill that I could learn. I always knew that I want my life to be in pursuit of helping other people and serving other people. So when I learned that, I it was just a way of being able to fulfill that at that point in my life. We work with predominantly entrepreneurs and coaches, and transform their life, and they all go on to have a much more prosperous life. There is some weird link between energy work and money, and especially with people in that field who get to a point where they feel like they're blocked or they've got certain things that they can't get past. So we work with those we work with them to help
And
transform their life.
if there's someone listening that has got absolutely no idea what energy work is,
Right.
how would you describe it to them?
So everything is energy. That's not woo woo. That's literal science. When we come back to the basics of physics. So everything in our physical realm has been created energetically first. So even within the body, it's a bit like gravity. If you believe that it's there or not, you know that it exists, right? So it's the same with energy. We have chakras, we have meridians, and when we work with them to actually realign them, the body wants to heal. So the body is constantly trying to get better all the time. However, certain experiences from childhood up to now will create belief systems and blockages in the body and in our lives because our brain believes a certain way. We've seen something and we make, especially as a child, we see something and can make a really incorrect belief system around something that's happened, which will go on to affect you into your adulthood. And sometimes it's something really small that happened in your childhood, but it's hugely affecting your work now. So when we work on those blocks and undo those, a lot of that work from when we were younger, you'll find that the energy and the work just starts to flow a lot smoother. Yeah, to some people who come in to work with us, it's really new and they find it a bit strange, but that by the end of it, they're like, oh my God, that was amazing. And to some people, they've worked on this kind of level before, but now it's just, it's a bit like a jet wash and we really like help get it all out. And it's a deeper level because healing and self-development it's never done, it's never complete. So you're always, up until the moment we take our last breath, there is a chance for growth, and that's, we're here to evolve and to get better. So this kind of work just helps
I
fasten that
love that.
process.
Up until we take our last breath, there's always a chance to grow because many people think, well, I'm an adult now and and it's all downhill from here. But I totally believe in what you're saying. There's always a chance to grow. And, like life, although it's very short, it can be kind of, there's huge and boundless possibilities there.
Absolutely.
Could you describe how you do it? How do you clear energy?
So I can't specifically say for everybody because it's different. So there's different modalities. You have things like Reiki and whatnot. The modality that we use is working quite closely with the chakras itself. So I can't really explain how to do it. It's a course that you have to learn, but yeah, it's teachings that I've learned from my teacher. But you work with the body system basically to do it. Yeah.
How did you find your teacher?
Um, so the modality we use is called pranic healing, and that just, well, because my mum had done it, so I kind of just followed in those steps.
So you grew up around it, and I suppose you could have gone one way or another. So some children want to do the exact opposite of their parents, and others follow in their footsteps. Did you ever like try and go against it, or was it always just the natural progression for you?
Yeah, I think because I grew up with these like burning questions, and spirituality never felt like a foreign thing. It felt very at home to me. That it fulfilled a lot of questions for me. It never felt like the odd thing to do. It just felt like the next step. And I think in self-development, especially in spirituality, it kind of finds you as well. Like when you seek, it's that homesickness of where we've come from, and we have these big questions because we know we've come from something greater. Um, so yeah, for me, it just kind of felt like it's a gift when you have these questions and you have this desire to learn more. I've come to realize that actually it's a blessing to have, and it can be hard sometimes, and you're facing challenges and awakening to truths that sometimes it can, you don't feel like you're ready for because you have to grow more. But yeah, that's kind of how it came into my life.
Yeah. And at what age, do you mind me asking?
So I did the course when I was 16. That's when I properly learnt it, but I'd been around it for a couple of years prior to that. I'd been meditating before that too. So it was all kind of, as Rumi said, as you start to walk on the way appears. I think you take one step and the universe will align the next 10. So
Yes.
yeah, it just felt like a very natural process.
Yeah, I love that so much. Wow. All I'll say is just wow. I feel like you can write a book already. Yeah, wonderful. In terms of the people that you surround yourself with, when it comes to networking, for instance, have you got any experience of it? What are your thoughts on it? And how important do you think it is to be around the right people to find your direction of where you want to be in life?
I think it's very important. From my experience, I've had quite a isolated journey up until this point. Um, in my life right now, I don't have loads of friends. I don't go out very often. Like it's quite an isolated, which I think for one is because I'm so focused on my work that I don't create the time to go out too much. I do think there's an element of we need human connection. It's absolutely vital to our growth. But I think I've been blessed to have a close net in my home, like with my mum, who's very this way inclined. So I don't feel the need to go and search that as much externally. And also, I've learned that the people that I want to be around probably wouldn't have wanted to be around me when I was 16. So I want to be of value to those kind of people too when I get to that point. So just keep growing and learning myself. I do know for a fact, though, that when you are around the right people, it's very, very uplifting and inspiring. And it can be, it's very magnetic, and it is important to have those kind of people. But I think until you get to a point where you are in those environments, just keep working on yourself. Some people are more people, if that makes sense, and want to be around people and are more extroverted. But I think that there is absolute power in solitude, especially for my generation, where it's easier to just be out and to, you know, fill those parts of yourself with other people's energy almost because you're just around them, as opposed to just reflecting and spending time with yourself to learn and grow yourself. And one thing I do know for sure is that it's a lot more powerful becoming your own best friend and building that relationship with yourself, because that sets the tone for the relationships you have with other people. So definitely take time to build that relationship with you, because you're going to be with you for the rest of your life. So make sure that's, a powerful place to be, a nice place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely think there is a place for networking, and I've been in networking groups that have been really supportive and that, are full of wonderful people. But I think definitely you have to do the work on you in order to be able to connect to other people, because you'll only ever meet other people as deeply as you've met yourself.
Join a dynamic community of driven entrepreneurs, professionals, and industry leaders who are passionate about growth, and like-minded individuals who inspire, support, and empower you to reach new heights. Expand your network and connect with a diverse range of professionals across various industries. Increase your visibility and showcase your expertise and services in a relaxed atmosphere. Learn from industry experts, attend workshops, and stay ahead of the thread. Build genuine connections that can lead to new clients, partnerships, and collaborations. Boost your confidence. Surround yourself with a supportive community that believes in your success. So don't miss out on this opportunity to ignite your business growth. Join Spark Business Networking to unlock endless possibilities for your entrepreneurial journey. Spark Business Networking, where connections ignite success. Absolutely. Do you believe in having a role model, or would you say that you're so busy working on yourself that you're working on the actual person that you are, rather than having somebody that you would aspire to be?
I don't think it's a bad thing to have a role model. If people have one, that's great. I never had one growing up, like a specific, like, I want to be them. There was people that I liked elements of, or I liked how they did their work or whatnot. Um, it sounds cliche, but the closest thing I have to one is probably like my mum. Um, Outside of that, I think I want to become the person that I would have looked up to when I was younger, the person that I didn't have when I was a kid and would have wanted to have had. I want to become that person, hopefully for other people. So not that it's in pursuit of being a role model for people, but to be a person that they can look up to and go, actually, I like that, or there's something about the way she does that I like and I want to aspire to. Yeah, it's not that I didn't want one, I just didn't have somebody that I thought, I want to be exactly how you are, or I want to be, very similar to how you are. So definitely now it's more about becoming that person for younger Summer.
Do you have siblings? Are you the oldest, or
Yeah, I'm the oldest. I have a brother and a sister.
and do they look up to you, do you think?
I don't know. If you ask my brother, he's very much, no, she's my older sister. I think my sister deep down does. No, actually she tells me she does sometimes. So yeah.
It sounds like you found your purpose. Would you say that you found your purpose in life?
I think your purpose evolves as you evolve. So what my purpose is today won't be the same as in 20 years. One thing I do know for sure is that I want my life always to be benefiting other people. I want the decisions that I make and the choices that I make to be of service to others. I know that my life is, I've been placed here to help other people. And I think that is in everybody. That's not to say that I won't, I don't hope to pursue a life that also fulfills me and the things that I enjoy. And, I like having nice things and whatnot, but I don't think having like that, I think especially as people get more successful, there's this correlation of like money makes you bad, or you can't be a spiritual person and, shop at, I don't know, Louis Vuitton, whatever. So there is a life that I, of course, absolutely want, and in the process of creating, but also I do want my life to always come back to, you know, being the intention that every being prospers.
So that leads me to, or you led me to my next question, which is money. What are your thoughts about money and
Money,
happiness?
this idea of, can money make you happy before everybody clicks off? Money cannot make you happy, no, because happiness doesn't come from a materialistic thing. Money is just a number, so if you keep chasing that, the number's going to keep getting bigger and bigger, so you'll never grab the happiness. However, it's nice having your bills paid, it's nice having nice things. Um, I do think though, if you can't enjoy the richness of a moment right now with not very much, then you'll never be able to enjoy it when you're on a yacht doing the same thing. So it's actually being able to just sit here right now and have a coffee right before you go to the gym, for example, I don't know, and really enjoy that moment. I think people have this idea that money makes you a bad person. Money doesn't make you a bad person. Money magnifies who you already are. So if you're a giver, you'll give more. If you are selfish, you'll be more selfish. The world has given money a lot of power. So it's just how it is. It's because, how humans have evolved over time, and now energetically money has power. So it's just then what you decide to do with that. I know the more money that I have, the more people I can help. That's the mindset I have. Yeah, along the way, I hope I have a couple cool cars and, travel nicely. But I also know that that will never change, because it's in giving that you receive. As you sow abundantly, you reap abundantly. So
Wise words, wise words. But let's go to your feelings about life. Are you excited about life? And where do you want to be in 5 to 10 years' time?
am I excited? I think, yeah, being human is a very humbling experience. I realize that every day I'm learning and every day I'm growing. And just when I think I know something, the universe slaps me. It's like, no, you need to know it more and you can know it better. Um, being here is exciting. Being here is the special occasion. I think sometimes we place that on when I get married or when I da da da, which first of all, that day may never come. Not to be morbid, it just might. I don't know. Tomorrow could be the last
Never
day.
know what's gonna
But also,
happen.
this moment is we only have this moment. So if we make this moment exciting, then absolutely life is exciting. It's definitely exciting to see where it's going. I think you can be driven and have goals and have a vision. It's important in life. You need to have some sort of direction in where you're going, but there's a grace that comes with the process. And sometimes you think you know best, and then, the universe will carry you into a different direction, and actually it will be exciting in its own way. I do know that life is exciting for sure, through the hard times and through the beautiful times. And where I hope to be in 5 years, hopefully somewhere where the sun is shining, helping a lot of people.
So not
Just
the UK then.
yeah, I mean, I'm not here to completely shit on it, but it's July and it's been raining for 4 days. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. How important do you think it is to visualize? So you're talking about it's important to be in the now and to be grateful and to be happy where we are now. How important is it, do you think, to sit and to dream, visualize? Do you believe in manifesting and the law of attraction, for instance?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. Ironically, if you listen to the podcast, what I'm about to say might scare some people. That's not what I wanted her to say. Absolutely manifest. You need to take time to meditate to, know where you want to go. But more than that, you need to take the action. It takes a lot of hard work. You've almost got to be dogmatic in the approach, and you've got to be willing to put in the time. And as much as I would love to sit here and say that I just completely visualized my way up until having a podcast that's, here and there, it would never have happened had I just not set it up, press record, made the episodes how I want them to be. It is hard, and you've got to understand that with that, there's a whole process behind, you can't just completely manifest. I like the idea and I agree with that, but having just this, visualization in your mind is like having a car and not putting petrol in it. Like, you've got to actually go and you've got to drive it and have, you know, we're here in physical form to do physical things. So absolutely energetically, you've got to be aligned with it. You've got to have, your inner Abraham Hicks and just believing that it's going to come to you just because you're existing. And there is a magnetic energy in that, but also you absolutely must take action.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. And it's a balance, isn't it? A
Yeah.
balance between all of those things, right? But if someone's listening now and they're really struggling in their business, for instance, or they're just feeling like they're coming up against it, as a healer, as somebody that does what you do, what would you advise?
Everything is coming from us. So life isn't coming at us, it's coming from us. The answer is always within. And when you think it isn't, it's definitely within you at some point. So it's something in you. I mean, if it's in your business, I can't, unless you know what the problem is specifically. That could be a bunch, a lot of things. But I think just taking the time and creating the space to actually, if this is a reoccurring pattern, for example, there's got to be something bigger behind it. Why do I keep attracting people who betray me with money? Or why do I keep attracting clients who da 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 da, whatever your problem is, it will be something in you. It always is. So, especially in business, I've learned your business is only going to grow as much as you grow because your energy is holding that. So, if you're not doing the work on yourself, it will be stagnant and you'll reach a plateau and you feel like, why can't I go any further ahead? And the reason is because you've got to go back to you and do the work on you. So, the answer is always, always within. Life is coming from us, not coming at us. So, whatever you're putting out, I would say you've got to, look and turn. It's like life is a mirroring act. So whatever is going on, it's a mirror to you. So look in the mirror.
So would you advise meditation every day? Would that be your style for people to do that?
I think it's unique for everybody. So how one person might meditate might not be the way for another person. When I was 15 or 16, I set out to do a year of meditation. So I turned up every day for 365 days, sat and did my meditation. And at that time in my life, it served me. It might not serve you in, at this point or in another point. I do think that it's a very special practice because it's not something that you can pay someone to do. It's not something that you can rush the process. You have to turn up and do the work. Sometimes it's going to feel like the meditation flew by. Sometimes you're going to be sitting there like, I've been here for hours, and it's only been 2 minutes. I definitely think that it's a thing that everybody at some point should try for sure, because it will open up your mind to a lot of things.
For sure. And but it sounds like you've had a very different upbringing to the average Joe. Would you say that you were brought up in a religious background or a spiritual background? How would you describe it?
I wouldn't say it was overly religious or overly spiritual. I think that that's kind of come as a result of my own seeking, especially now in my life. And, now, of course, my work is based around this and my mum's work is based around this, but it wasn't always. My parents' work growing up had no correlation to this at all. So I think there was core fundamental beliefs that my parents instilled in me. My mum always said to me growing up that God's within you. You don't have to go anywhere or smoke anything or go to a certain place to ever connect to the divine part because it's within everybody. And I think small core belief systems like that are really powerful. In some ways, absolutely. I look at my life sometimes, which is very normal to me because it's all I know, and I talk to other people and they're like, your life is very different to how most people's is. But then in some ways it doesn't feel that different. It just feels like everybody has problems and it's kind of what you do, how you allow them to mold you and how you allow them to mold your life.
Hey, do you want to create the opportunity to step away from your business so you can work on it rather than in it? Do you need some rest and restoring time so that you can take some time to look after your body, your health and your mind and come back stronger and better and full of creative ideas? I'd love to invite you to come on a retreat with me where we have a regular yoga practice. We have some beautiful conversations, meditations, massage, all sorts of wellness practices to really create the best version of you and for you to rest and restore and come back stronger. So if you'd like to learn more, then reach out to me, send me a DM or have a look at my website, yogitribe.com. That's yogitribe.com and look at the retreats on there.
I've said throughout this podcast that you've got really, really wise words. And just as we begin to start to draw to a close, I'd like to ask you to share with people, how they can find you, of course, obviously in the show notes too. But then if you could leave some wise words for listeners, what would they be?
Wow. Okay.
The big one. If I give you a little bit of a brief, the podcast is aimed anyone who wants to listen and get inspired, of course, but much in the fact it's entrepreneurs and people that are building businesses, and and maybe, as you were describing earlier, being kind of alone, because when you're building a business, it's a lonely process often, and you have to be your own best friend.
I would say that this life is yours to create. So there is an absolute divine part of it. There is a grace that's carried, from a very mystical, magical source. However, we have one shot to make it everything that we want it to be. And it ultimately does fall back into your lap. And the question comes down to, how bad do you want it? If you're creating a business, how bad do you want it? If you want to be in shape, how bad do you want it? If you want it more than the next person, you need to make sure you're doing the work to get there. I absolutely believe in spirituality. I absolutely believe in manifestation and visualization and creating time for meditation. But I know that there is a huge element of action, and you've got to be undying in your efforts. And it is hard sometimes, and it's meant to be. But one thing I will say is, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. It's meant to be hard. It's meant to be that this version of you currently can't achieve them, because there's a process of becoming to have those life goals. It's not just about in the destination of when your business hits 1 million, or when you have a house and a car and a yacht. That's great, but actually the journey is also part of it, and it's in that becoming that is really the special part of life. And when you enjoy the journey, when you enjoy the creating, because like I said, sometimes you don't know you'll always get to the end, or if you do get to the end, you'll realize actually happiness isn't there, it was in the journey. So enjoy the process and fall in love with it, because actually that's where the magic is.
Amazing. Summer, thank you so much. How can people find you? Obviously, they can look for the Inner Wealth podcast.
Yeah.
Any other ways?
Yeah, it's the same on Instagram too, innerwealth.podcast. Updates on there. You get to see the face behind the mic. Yeah.
And she's gorgeous. Thank you so much, Summer, for coming onto the podcast today. We might do another one in person, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really, really beautiful to meet you, and inspiring too. And yeah, thanks once again.
No problem.
And
Thank you for having me.
thank you so much for listening to the Networking Spark podcast. I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Coming up next week, we have Tracy Louise Taylor on the show. She has a very unique combination of niches: financial abundance and the menopause, and she's also known as Meno Money, transforming midlife challenges into financial abundance. If this relates to you, then definitely have a listen. If this doesn't relate to you, then perhaps you know somebody that may be going through that situation, and it would be really great for you to learn and be educated on it so that you're able to support them. So whatever the situation, I really hope to see you there. Thanks so much for listening. See you soon. And don't forget to go and create some sparks in the world.